Okay, this is the last of your videos for today, and this is actually going to be a practice set page that we do together. And this page is going to be exactly like your homework page for tonight, but it's going to have different numbers. So it's like when we do a pre-test, the pre-test gives all the same problems as the post-test does, but they have different numbers. So kind of the same thing here. So basically the whole idea about this, and there's a really good reminder at the top. Remember, if your fraction is written with a 10 in the denominator or it's a tenth, see how they only put one number after the decimal in tenths? Or if it's in a hundredth as your number, they do two numbers after the decimal. So again, if you get lost or confused, always go back up to the top on the pages like this and they'll kind of give you a little guidance. All right, so the basic idea is what we have to do on this entire page is change all the fractions into decimals. And that's it. That's all we have to do. So a couple strategies. Remember what you're saying. 4/10. Now this is the example that they did together. So they actually did, and you can kind of see it a little darker there. Their answer is 0.4. Now some people say, do I need to put the 0 in front of the decimal point? My answer to that is no, you don't need it there, because whether there's a 0 there or whether there's no number there, that doesn't change what the answer is. It means that there's no whole number at all. So a 0 or nothing means the same thing. So to save yourself a little time and effort, just don't worry about the whole number, because we're not going to do anything with whole numbers on these. So 10's my denominator, one number after the decimal, 0.4, 4/10. Okay, now the rest of this is actually going to go really fast once you get into it, okay? Now, 2/10. Now, hopefully you're doing this sheet along with me. Remember, it's the one that says practice set. Do this with me. This will be your model for doing your homework for tonight. Okay, 2/10. My denominator says tenth. That's one number after the decimal. How do I say this fraction? 2/10. How do I write it as a decimal? 2/10. One number after the decimal. 7/100. All right, don't get tricked on this one. Now, we know these are all going to start with a decimal, right? So this one says hundredths. So that means I'm going to have two numbers after my decimal point. What some people do is say, oh, 700ths. There it is. Well, is that 700ths? Is that two numbers after the decimal point? No. So then some people say, oh, yeah, it needs two numbers, so I do that. What does that number say? That number says 70 hundredths. Does that number say 70 hundredths? So how do I write 7 hundredths? Well, I know I have to have two numbers after the decimal. I need it to say 7, so the only way you do that is like this. 0.07. This number says 7 hundredths. Be really careful. You have to really watch yourself on what numbers in my denominator for how many numbers after the decimal there are, okay? All right, 84 hundredths. Two numbers after the decimal, 0.84. 4 hundredths. All right, this is just like this one up here. It's 4 hundredths. How many numbers after the decimal? There's got to be two, but how do I get it to say 4? It's not this. That's 4/10. It's not that with two numbers after the decimal. That's 40 hundredths. So to say 4 hundredths, you need your decimal to say 4, which is 0.04. 32 hundredths means two numbers after the decimal. There's 32 hundredths. 73 hundredths, two numbers after the decimal, 0.73. All right, you should be on to this trick right now. 1 hundredth, two numbers after the decimal, and I only want it to say 1. What's the only way I can write 1 as a hundredth? 0.01. 94 hundredths, okay, two numbers after the decimal, 0.94. Okay, now they're switching gears on you. 1/10. Now, how many numbers are after the decimal? 4/10. Yes, you're right. There's 1. So 1/10 is 0.1. That's it. I don't put any other numbers because tenth means that's only one number after the decimal. There's 1/10. Okay, 3/10. One number is going to be after the decimal because it's a tenth. There's 3/10. 0.3. 9 hundredths. 0.09. It's got to say hundredths. There's two numbers after the decimal, but it's got to say 9. It can't say 90. It's got to be 9. Okay, 8 hundredths. Oops, I skipped down. 0.08. That is a really funky decimal point. Okay, 5 hundredths. 0.05. Two numbers after the decimal because it's hundredths and it's got to say 5. 86 hundredths. Two numbers after the decimal because it's hundredth, 0.86. 15. 95 hundredths, 0.95. 35 hundredths, 0.35. Two numbers after the decimal because it's hundredths. 6 tenths. All right, tenths is not hundredths, so tenths has one number after the decimal. 6 tenths. Okay, last row already. 9 tenths. One number after the decimal, 0.9. 7 tenths. One number after the decimal because it's tenths, 0.7. And then 3 hundredths. Now hundredths again, how many numbers after the decimal? It's got to be 2. I needed to say 3. It's 0.03. Okay. Now, as quick as we went through this guided practice sheet, the homework that you guys are going to do is the exact same thing. I hope you find that you're going to fly through that as well. You can either write your answers right by the fractions over here for the decimals, or you can bring your answers over here. Either way is fine with me. You don't have to redo it if you did it right here and write them over into the right-hand column. So either way is fine once you finish the homework sheet. And again, the homework sheet was shared with mom and dad in their emails. They can print all these off. The homework sheet says homework at the top. It looks just like the one that we just did. And when you're done with this, snap me a picture and send it my way. I'll grade it and give you some feedback if you got any redos to do or how you did overall, okay? Hopefully this was pretty easy once we got into it and did some guided practice together. And that'll kind of end our lesson for today. So talk to you guys later.